Hello design and technology students. So the first video I'm going to be making for you today just shows you a very broad introduction to Sketchup, which we're going to be using a little bit in our course this year. So we're going to be using it for things like architectural drawing, component drawing, but the purpose of this video is just to give you a very broad introduction to the program, how to set up a template, and just an example of some of the tools that you'll be using. So first things first, we're going to be using Sketchup Make 2017, which is a free version of SketchUp, doesn't require a license, and it's compatible with both Windows and Mac. So your teacher will show you how to download that. So first things first, we'll just open up SketchUp, and you'll see a screen like this pop up. So here is where you select the template that you're going to be using. So if we click on the template section here, you'll see a range of different templates. It can be a bit overwhelming. The one that I find easiest and the one that we're going to be using in this course is woodworking millimeters. And the reason we're choosing that is because it's very simple. It has the two horizontal and the one vertical axis. It doesn't have any distracting features like a figure or a horizon line. And the values that we enter are in millimeters, which is what we use when designing components and objects. So we're going to click on woodworking millimeters and select start using SketchUp. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got an isometric view, which means from above and to the side, and we've got three lines here. So these are our axes. So we have the blue one, which is the vertical, and that's going to become more relevant as we start to make 3D kind of shapes and 3D designs. And we've got two horizontal axes. So you have the green axis and the red axis. And these are important because they help us keep our designs square. So we want 90-degree angles. We don't want things going off in weird directions, and this just helps keep us on track. Okay, so the tools that we're going to be using is the select tool, which is the arrow one here, and that's for selecting different shapes, different parts of components of the design, and then we can delete, copy, whatever we need to do. We also have the eraser tool, which allows us to delete certain sections of our design. We have the pencil tool, which allows us to draw shapes. So we can use it to draw, square shapes or other more irregular shapes as well. We have the arc tool. So we use that to draw arcs. So that will become more relevant and when we start to make more complex designs. So for instance, you have two lines here and we want a curved line here rather than a straight line. That's when we'll use our arc tool to create sort of arcs there. And we can select different types. So the one we'll be using mostly is the 2-point arc tool, which just allows us to, create kind of wedge shapes or arcs between 2 points. We have the rectangle tool, which allows us to draw rectangles or squares, depending on what we are doing with our design, and that just keeps them, it allows us to draw, square shapes quickly rather than using the pencil tool. And the measurements for those are down here, but we'll get into that a little bit later. We have the 3D tool. So the 3D tool we use or the push-pull tool is its official name. We use it to turn 2D shapes into 3D objects. And we'll go into that a little bit later. That's a bit more complex than what we're starting off with here. The offset tool, which is useful in architectural drawing, but again, it's a bit more advanced. The move tool, We use it a little bit, not so much, but it does come in handy with architectural drawings such as floor plans as well. But I'll talk to you a little bit about that in another video. Scale we sometimes use, and that is to change the scale of an object while keeping the measurements in proportion. The tape measure tool here is a very important one. So for instance, we have a rectangle. We can use it to measure the distance between 2 points. And the other thing we can use it for is to create guides. So for instance, we wanted to draw a box in the middle. We could put the guides in there and then go in and do that. So we'll talk more about these tools later and how they're actually applied in the design process or in the process of drawing designs. The paint bucket tool, which we can use to add simple shapes such as just like that, or we can also use it to add different textures. So for instance, like a wood texture, and these come in handy when we're putting textures on things like the roof of a house or the side of a house. They do become relevant and important at that point. The other tools we have on the top toolbar here is the orbit tool, which allows us to move around the design, have a look at it from the bottom, from the top. We can change sides in case there's one side of the design that needs more attention than the other. It's a very useful tool. And the pan tool, so that allows us to move as well. So just say we're working on this, but we want to start another design here, we can move this to the side and it becomes very important then. Okay, so that is an introduction into the template we use, as well as some of the tools that we use. So the next videos are going to go into a bit more detail about specific tools and how to apply them in the drawing of different design objects. Okay.